Greetings, folks, and welcome back to the land of ice and snow and more ice and more snow and more ice and more snow. Seriously, it never stops around here in the winter. I wonder why. Probably because Canada. Anyway, today we're going to get on top of my Technics RS-M275X from Japan and hopefully get it going again and have lots of fun and make lots of mistakes and make new friends along the way, maybe. I don't know. This is going to be my test subject deck for this stuff. We're going to try using this ISO 46 compressor oil for the very first time in the capstan motor of this thing, just to see how it does. This is thicker stuff than I've been using in most of my other cassette decks, well, all of my other cassette decks, but I just want to see how it does because a liter of this costs significantly less than even a fraction of a liter of this stuff. Like, to get a bottle like this, it's like 50 bucks. This whole thing cost me 50 bucks, so I really want to know how good this stuff works out for capstan motors and such. So that's the idea for this deck. Now, what's wrong with this? We remember from the diagnosis video where I had this thing part of. What's wrong with it is, A, somebody serviced it the wrong way. There was a capstan belt that shouldn't be in there because it's direct drive. And B, there's a bunch of screws in the wrong places and all kinds of crazy stuff. I've got most of my supplies set out here. I have an idler for the take-up side from Fix Your Audio, and I've got a belt for the take-up side from Fix Your Audio, and I've got other idlers because this deck takes more than one, and the fast wind idler doesn't have to be quite so critical as to use something from Fix Your Audio. So I got a bunch of these SB111 O-rings here, AS568 flavor, and turns out that these two idlers are the same size, it looks like, so if these don't work, I'll probably have something that will, so that's that. But before we do that, we have to do something crazy. Like I haven't been doing that all of this time during the entire channel's existence. But the first thing I want to do on this deck is determine its suitability for running at 120 volts instead of 100 volts. Without the step-down transformer. That's because this deck is intended to be my main playback deck for DBX, so if it actually does that or not, we'll see. I don't know how good the head is or anything, but we're going to find out eventually as time goes by. But what we're going to do to determine the suitability of 120 volts is, well, first off, I should tell you I've already done this, but we're going to pretend I didn't, so I can show you exactly my thought process on this. So I'm going to need you guys over here for this, I think. Let me move the deck over just a little. We'll get the multimeter set up here. Okay, so power is applied to the deck, full 120 volts. This deck does run the VFD filaments off the transformer directly, so that's what we're going to be mostly evaluating today because I've already been through the schematics and I know that this will handle 120 volts on the power supply side, but the VFD may not, so that's what we're going to try and figure out today. So fire up the meter here, and we're going to disconnect the transformer. And what we're going to do is we're just going to check the voltages coming out of the transformer to see exactly what power we've got coming in here. So I am applying power now, and we're just going to take some measurements here. Oh, wait. I am an idiot today. This is AC volts, not DC. Kind of waking up yet. Middle of the day, so you'll have to forgive me. Okay, there we go. The blue wires have 5.63 volts on them, so that's the VFD tap right there, or VFD winding. That voltage is supposed to be 5 volts or less, I do believe. I'm not sure. So let's try the orange wires again. Okay, 40.3 volts. That's what I thought. That's what I thought I remembered. So, black wire to orange wire. 20.27 volts on that one. $20.3 on that one. So, yes. I'm going to put the meter away now. Shut the deck off for a second, and I want to show you the primary side capacitors here. If I can get my camera gimbal to cooperate again. Basically, the only parts that are actually across the main center tap windings on these things are 25 volts, so there's plenty of room in there for a little bit of excess voltage. Okay, so we are pretty sure that the main power supply of this is not going to have any problems with 120 volts. The problem is going to be the VFD display if there's any problem at all. So what we're going to do is experiment here. We're going to see, once we fire it up, how bright the filament lines are in there, and if they're real bright and orange, then we shut it off, and then we have to figure something out to modify the circuit. I'm not sure, the service manual has that VFD voltage at either 4.7 or 5 volts, so it's running at 5.7 right now, which is too high, but is it going to be too high for this VFD? I don't know. We need to figure that out. So what I'm going to do is possibly cause damage here. So I just want to stress this to you. Don't try this at home if you are in any way concerned about this kind of thing. If you're not sure about this, just go ahead and run a step-down transformer. Don't do what Donnie Don't does. So we're going to need all the lights off in order to see this. So I'm going to shut all the lights off. And we shall dwell in darkness for a minute here. Let's see, can I cut off the other lights too? I should. Okay, now we're in the dark. So, the plan is very simple. I'm going to fire this up at 120 volts. We're going to see if the filament lines light up too orange or not. If they're dim, I'm not going to worry about it. If they're bright, we're going to have to shut this off and get some resistors out and try that. So, here goes nothing. Well, it would be nice if I turned the power on again. Okay, now here goes nothing. Okay, I do see the lines. They are not very bright. So tell you what, let's do. Let me put the lights back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up the meter again. And we're just going to check the filament voltage out of the transformer. AC volts this time. Okay. What are we getting? 5.23. We're good. This deck's fine with 120 volts. But again, do this at your own risk. Don't come back at me and say, you blew up my deck if you try this and it doesn't work. I'm okay with this risk because this is my deck. I'm not doing this for customers just yet. I might be, especially the way things are going with the US and Canada trade war stuff that's going on today, but that's not until I get towards the end of my stockpile of cassette decks, so I'm not worrying about it right now. For now, I'm just here to learn how to do this better, so I can maybe do this for other people next year. So, next step from here is to do the transport service, and I'm missing an idler somewhere. Oh well, I'll find it. Now, when it comes to the transport service on this deck, I'm going to probably do sort of an abbreviated approach compared to the last time I serviced this transport. Reason being, when I do all that work to one transport and show it on video, I don't like to show it all over again in the next video. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to put up a card like right there maybe, so you can find the videos on, I don't know if it's one or two videos, but I'll figure it out. I'll put up a video on the RS-M275X, and you can get all the information from there that is not in this video. Let's put it that way. Basically on that deck I did the entire backside of the transport on camera, so the backside of this transport will not be on camera. The mode belt change will be off camera, so will be the capstan service. It's all going to be mostly the same as to that deck. So what will be in this video is me servicing the front side of the transport, because you didn't see me work on the idler on that deck. So we're going to work on both idlers on this deck, the front side, get everything working nice, and that's the plan. So we got to get the transport out of this thing to start working on it. Let me unplug the deck so I don't shock myself by accident or something. We will eject and remove the tape door. And the service manual has you taking the front panel off on this deck, so we're going to do that, keeping in mind that this is the correct screw for the front, or for the face, but a number of the correct screws are not there. Like there's a screw missing way up over here, and that's the right screw there. But two of the faceplate screws are actually in the transport. There's one there, and none of these screws up in this plate are the right ones. So don't know who serviced it before, but I'm going to pull these screws out now because they're going back in the right places when I get done with this. And we got to do this anyway in order to get the transport out. Okay, next step is to remove the knobs. Okay, so it turns out you don't even have to remove these knobs. What I basically did to get things apart was I just pulled the screws out of the bottom for the faceplate and just pulled it right off, and used the faceplate itself to push the input level knobs off, so no worries there. So I bet this is going to be fun. Nice direct drive version of the 245X or chassis. Okay, and these have been off before. I can tell that they've been marked. We'll just leave those markings in place. Not sure what I'm disconnecting now, but it has to come off anyway, and that one's been marked in the past. I will be recapping the motorboard on this thing. I do not like the idea of ever having to get inside this thing again if I don't have to. Oh, and I should address that as well. I've decided not to recap anything over here, at least for now. What I found with the 245X is there was only one bad capacitor in that whole deck, and it was one of the Elna ones. It wasn't any of these dark blue Panasonic SU caps. Those were all good. None of them were leaking. I will change any that I see physically leaking, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that. Power supply will get done. Probably today, maybe a couple days from now, sometime in the process of working on this deck anyway. Okay, I'm going to pull these two screws out while I am remembering it, and these are the wrong screws. I think they're the wrong screws. No, that one was the right screw. Okay, now I remember what the issue was. They were both the wrong screws, and I had to install the right screws, and I found the right screws elsewhere. That's right, the right screws were up and over here on the very ends. That's what the deal was. And these screws on each side, those were replaced with these screws, these machine screws. So what I did was I took a couple of faceplate screws and I had bolted the transport back in the right way with the right screws. Well, the right type of screws, I should say. Okay, what else we got going on here? Got to pull these two connectors. Well, I guess this one over here could have stayed with the transport because it's on connectors back over here as well, but I think I'm good with this. These are two different length connectors. That was connector D. It is actually labeled. This is connector E. You can see the E right there. E is for everybody in Canada is mad at Trump right now. I will refrain from telling you whether or not I am or not, because this is not a political channel and I have no interest in politics whatsoever. We're not going to get into it. Period. Okay, this is connector S, it looks like. It is labeled on the circuit board way back over there, so easy enough to find. Okay, this is a ground wire, isn't it? It is, yes, indeed, a ground wire, and we have to disconnect it from over here. I'm going to put that screw back so I don't lose it and mix it up with other screws. Okay, what else do we got to do over here? That does not need to come up. That is for something else. This does not need to come up. That is for something else. That's for the headphone jack, it looks like. Just the head wires now, I think. One big connector over here for that. Connector Q. Just trying to make sense of what I'm seeing over here. We got one more, it looks like, down on the power supply board. Connector G. And now I think we just pull the transport up and out, which is why I reinstalled the two screws up here in this plate. I think I've got to take some screws out of the bottom. Yeah, that's the case. Right there and right there. Okay, should be ready to come out now. Let's find out if that is actually the case. Oh, we got a little plate on the front here for the eject and power buttons. That was kind of holding me up there, but okay, Technics, why did you do that? They've got the power switch running through the front of the transport here, so we're going to have to disengage this, and it looks like it already is disengaged, so I guess I don't need to worry about that. Maybe. Okay, what's hanging up here? Not much. Good. I'll drop that little plate back in there. It actually looks like this plate is supposed to go on here. So I should probably glue that back in place. That's easy enough to do. I'll worry about that another time. Okay, so what is this? We got an extra wire here. Ah, yes, it's for the erase head, it looks like. It's a 3-pin connector labeled R, which is short for right about now the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. And it is correctly labeled in the deck, so thank you, Technics, for making this easier for me. You made it so I can run this deck off 120 volts, and you made it so I can get inside it easy. Okay, so we got a double circuit board here mounted back to back. We've got one of these god-awful ribbon cables here. We're gonna have to watch that for sure. And we've got another one over here. We're gonna have to watch that one too. These are easily damaged, and if they get damaged, you're in for a hard time. So it looks like I'm going to have to desolder those in order to do much of anything on this. This is more than likely why they installed an extra capstan belt to go ahead and drive the take-up side of this, because they didn't want to go through the effort of taking all this nightmare apart to get at the actual mode belt. And it was probably working just well enough for them to just get by. But I don't see anything too ridiculously hard about this compared to the 245X. Those ribbon cables are going to be a pain, but they usually are anyway. Alright folks, we got to talk capacitors before we continue on with this. I ended up recapping the entire power supply. It's all done. Got nice new capacitors, but I did find bad ones. These two here are out of spec. This one is something like 60 or so microfarads. It's supposed to be 100. It's not anymore. And as you might be able to tell, it has been physically leaking. And this other one is also bad. I don't know if this one's been physically leaking, but it is electrically leaking. Got up to 350 kiloohms and then just started climbing backwards, so no good. And also, it's supposed to be 3300. It measured it in at 4200, so it's above where it's supposed to be. So, no good. The rest of them are over here. These four back here all tested good. No problems. Some of them are starting to leak physically, though. Not sure if it's that one or not, but let's see if I can find one here. Yeah, that one's getting started. It's looking to puke its guts out. But there were a lot of physically leaking capacitors in the power supply. I'm glad I changed them, but all of these measure good. Yeah, there's one right there that's physically leaking, and the one next to it, and the one next to that, and the one next to that, and this one here. So, not very good. I'm throwing them all away. Now, when it comes to the new capacitors, you're going to notice I've got two of these big brown 4700s at 35 volts. These are replacing, where are they here? They're replacing two of these. These are 4700 at 16 volts. And these tested good. However, they were using 16 volt capacitors on a 15.3 volt rail, or 15 point something. Can't remember exactly. So I wasn't comfortable with that, so I decided not to go with the 16 volt parts, and I went up to the 35s. These are the same ones that I got for the 666 ES. Like I said, I got a bunch of those in with that order, so should be happy with those. A lot of them are Panasonic FR, like these two back here are FR, and then that one back there is FR. This one's FM, and there's a bunch of FRs throughout, and there's a couple of those pretty red Worth capacitors in there as well. Speaking of kablamitators, I am now finding leaking capacitors outside the power supply, like that one right there. This guy and his buddy on this other card back here, leaking. And I think there's one down here on the meter board as well. I am not going to do anything about those, however. today. At least not anytime soon. Reason being, I want to go through all of this section of the deck first and look for the signal chain capacitors and do those first. And then I'll go back through and get the ones that are physically leaking, like that guy. These are most likely going to test good if I were to pull them out right now and test them, but I'm not going to do that. We need to get into the transport right now, so let's do that. Now, before we get into this, a couple of announcements. I've got my syringe of ISO 46 ready. This is the compressor oil. As mentioned, it is a little bit higher viscosity than the Andurol 456 I usually use, but it seems like it's easy enough to get into the syringe, and it's probably going to work well enough for the capstan motor on this thing, so I'm betting it's not going to be a problem, so we'll find out for sure. But the other thing I wanted to mention is the Akai GXR88. I was made an offer I couldn't refuse by Peter at ASB Custom. He basically offered to reattach the magnet cup on the detached side of the flywheel for me and also balance the flywheels. So I couldn't ignore that. So those flywheels are on their way down to him, and we're going to be collaborating, and he's going to do another video on those flywheels. Whenever I get those flywheels back, I'll post a link as to where you can find that video underneath the next video on that deck. But another thing I should mention is I have been polishing on the transport control buttons. They're a lot better now, but I want to caution you, you can't go too hot and heavy on these things, because you will damage the chrome plating on this if you go too hard with it. Like, I had my Dremel tool a little too fast on the pause button, and it's now kind of crazing a little bit, so can't go as hard on the polishing on those buttons as you could with the CT970, which, by the way, has made its first vaporwave tape. Went for a whole 60 minutes without shutting off or doing anything weird or whatever. Now, first thing I have to do is get into the back side of the transport so I can service that part of it. So basically, we've got two ribbon cables to deal with. There's this one here, which goes up to the front panel switches, and then there's one up and under here for the capstan motor, and I'm going to be desoldering those. Okay, so we've got a couple of disconnectors to disconnect. That one there, and that one there. And these are labeled, it looks like. Yeah, we've got U on this one and T on this one. They are both marked, so nothing to worry about there. And these are not socketed, they are soldered, so be aware of that if you're wanting to do what I'm doing here today. Neither of these screws were very tight, so whoever did this last didn't really tighten these down very much. Which is kind of good. You don't want your circuit boards cracked, but on the other hand, one of these did have a ground wire attached to it, so that would have had to be somewhat tight. Okay, I'm just going to gently pull this up and over, like so. And I'm going to put it right back because there's something to disconnect up here. I've got to undo this wire right here, or this connector, before this will come out. I'll do it this way just so you can see what I'm doing with the ribbon cable. Be very careful with these ribbon cables. They'll break and tear, and then you've got a big problem on your hands. And here's the connector down here I'm going to be desoldering. Right yonder. Looks like it's not a double-sided ribbon cable, so that's helpful. See if I can get this. Okay, so this board's done. I replaced all 3 of the capacitors I found on here. Not too hard to do on this, but it is time for me to get the motorboard out of here as well. So basically just the same procedure. We've got this ribbon cable here I'm going to desolder, and then got a few things to unplug, and then it should come right out. But I just wanted to show you on camera so I know myself what I'm going to be doing to get this back together. Got 2 more connectors we're going to have to unplug. This one here, it's labeled O, and it is labeled on the connector as well, on both sides of the connector I mean, and that one's P. So that should be all I need to do there. This one here is for the FG coil, and it looks like I will have to disconnect this as well. But I just wanted to mention it's hot glued to the circuit board over here, so not exactly sure on how I'm going to put that back, but I'm guessing it's going to involve silicone. So I'll just disconnect connector N here, which is labeled. Pull this down out of the way. And now I should be able to just pull the motorboard once I get this desoldered. So I'm going to do that, and I'll report back when we're ready to get inside the capstan motor, which, by the way, is fairly well lubed yet. I think this is actually a low hours deck, although you wouldn't know it to look at it, and I just noticed something. Check that out. Somebody broke a screw off in there. The surprises keep on coming. Okay, I got the motorboard out and recapped, and this was the only capacitor I could find that was really not so good anymore. It's 0.68 microfarads. It measured at 1.2 microfarads, so kind of going out of spec, but I had a new one of those, so crisis averted on that one, or averted. But it's time for me to service this mess back here. And like I said, this is basically the same transport as the RS-M275X, so make sure you go and check that video out if you need to know how to get at this mode belt to change it. I'm doing that all off camera, like I said, but what we will do on camera is get access to the capstan motor. And again, it's just a little easier for me to deal with this capstan motor if this ribbon cable is not connected, so hopefully I didn't do any damage desoldering that. It looks okay. It's just one side, and it's kind of folded over like so. And they had it soldered on both sides, so got to remember that. Here's your motor coils. We know everything works back here, so I'm not too concerned about testing these. The Hall effect sensors are just right here and here. I will set this up to the side for the moment and yank this out. No problem servicing it from here. And I think I'm going to run this FG coil wire a little differently because I can see it's been kind of rubbing down there. I don't know if I really want it to go the same way it was before. I don't know. We'll see. That'll all be done off camera. But in the meantime, because we are putting new oil in, I'm going to chase this bearing through with the pipe cleaner trick. Now I want to mention that that doesn't get all of the old oil out. In order to get the oil fully out of a sintered bearing, you'd have to pull a vacuum on it, or so I've heard. So this will not be getting all of the old oil out, but it'll be getting some out. So I'm just going to set it up like so. Uno pipe clean arrow. Cotton, of course. I don't want to do synthetic pipe cleaners through a capstan bearing. Dip it in acetone. I'll just run it through from behind. I know some people disagree with me on doing this, but that's okay. I don't always agree with everything else I see on YouTube either, so Just kind of learning as I go here. And there's one more capacitor I'm going to have to change up here. That's going to be easy to get to. Much easier, in fact, than doing this job on the 245X, because I had to dismantle a whole circuit board from up here. I gotta get my rocket blower and blow this bearing out, and then I will service the back side of the transport and continue on with you on camera on the front side. And I will be changing this belt as well. It's easy to get to from here. We interrupt today's video with a something I gotta show you. Let's put it that way. This is my boombox collection. Well, part of it. Some of them aren't in here. The DT901 isn't on the shelf right now because something bumped it off, but I got my silver SR5000 down there. My first boombox is that one, the CC4000, aka silver SR4400. There's the Panasonic RX-DS50, built with parts from my original RX-DS20. There's that Sony I'm still looking for a decent auto reverse gear for. Emerson boombox with a TV in it, and this is what I gotta show you. In 1983, I walked into a store in the Wheatland Mall in Swift Current called Sounds Good. I was there with my parents. I was 9 years old. I was looking at the boomboxes they had there, and one really caught my eye. It was this right there. That is a JVC PCR55, and I've wanted one ever since 1983. Things being what they were, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so with this thing costing something like $550 at the time, Canadian, in 1983 money, there was no way I was going to get one of these. I begged them as hard as I could, but never got one. I would sit there at night in my bed and lie awake for hours just dreaming of what would happen if one of these just showed up inside my door all of a sudden from my parents as a birthday present or something. But it just wasn't to be. So, me being the age I was, I kind of forgot all about it. And then 2 years later, I got my first boombox, which is, again, that one right down there. And yeah, I just kind of put this big beast out of my mind and just sort of forgot about it. And I just can't believe this thing is sitting here right now. I've had the money to buy one for a couple of years now, but for some reason it just never clued into my brain that I could get one. So yeah, I'm just over the moon right now. I can't tell you how much this means to me to have one of these sitting here. This is going to be my birthday project for this year. Commonly what happens on these is there are issues with the LCD display in here, and I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to deal with that, but we'll find out as time goes by. And in terms of the cassette deck in this is basically the same transport as my TDX 501 and TDV 931, so should be very familiar with that transport by the time I get around to servicing this one. So I hope I can do it justice, because I have been waiting so long for this. And it's the right color too. They were available in 3 colors. You had the extremely rare white one, which is Japan only. So if you want a white one, you got to go to Japan to find it. And then there's the silver one and the black one. And it's the silver one I always wanted, and it's here. Man, I can't believe this. I've got one, finally. Okay, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update here. I just got the mode belt changed. I did not have the right belt. You're supposed to use a 140 millimeter internal circumference belt, 1.2 millimeter square, and I didn't have one of those anymore. So I've gone in with a 130 millimeter. So I hope it's okay. I tested it with the bench supply, and the motor's not real happy about it, but it does work. And since this reel motor only activates during fast wind and mode changes, I'm not really sure if it's worth worrying about. The take-up drive on this one is done by this motor over here, so no need to worry about this motor running all the time and having to drive the reels. So I hope this works. It was either that or go with a 1mm belt, and I just didn't have the confidence that a 1mm would be able to change modes. This one might still have problems with that, but as far as the old belt goes, this one is 160 millimeters, so it is extremely stretched and very glazed, so that's why it didn't work before. Anyway, I'm going to keep on keeping on with this. I haven't gotten inside here to do any greasing yet. I may not. I don't know, I'll see how I feel about it. I probably will, but who knows. But yeah, this belt's next, and then probably the next time I see you guys will be in the front side of the transport. Okay, folks, this is day 2 for me. Same day for you. I just ran out of time yesterday to finish this up, so here we are on another day to get it all done, hopefully. You'll see I've got this all siliconed in place now, and the board's reattached and all that. If I ever have to do any more work in behind this board, I'll just swivel it down out of the way and keep the ribbon cable connected. You can do that with both boards if you don't really want to mess with this soldering stuff down here, but I just wanted to get the board completely away so I could lubricate all these gears and stuff back in here, which have been done now. Should mention, it's not really possible to get this mode wheel out without removing this side panel, but you can pull it that way far enough to get in behind there and clean and lubricate it. So that's basically what I did on that. And I just completed a very, very picky repair on the back of this thing. I need to warn you about something here. You see these switches? You gotta watch it around these things. It's not that these wires to the switches break very easily, it's that the tabs on the back of the actual switches break. That's what happened on this one. This is the metal tape detection switch. Basically, I was trying to desolder it so I could get rid of some of the fraying ends on this wire, and just the whole thing broke off flush with the body. So what I had to do was I took my soldering iron, I burned a hole in the top section of this far enough so I could get new solder onto the onto this top contact here inside the plastic body, and I basically stuck the wire into the end here and soldered it in. So it's holding for now. I don't know if it'll hold permanently, but very big concern with these. And this other switch has not broken off, but I've now zip tied the wires to those switches in place to these black wires here. So hopefully that'll keep them out of trouble for the rest of the service. But that is one of the worst soldering jobs I've ever done. I'll tell you that right now. Anyhow, I managed to get everything back together well enough to do the front now. And I'll tell you that I have tested the capstan flywheel, and it is now moving very well. So I think the lube is all good on that part of it now, so at least I hope so. We'll find out for sure whether or not there's too much drag in the motor during the speed calibration, but for now, I think it's going to be all right. And I gotta apologize right now for my voice. I'm kind of fighting a cold, so not really feeling too great, but I need to get this done because I will be away next week, and I need to get stuff finished. Yes, I does. I gotta try to get another video done at some point here too, so what we're gonna have to do now is get this door off. I've been trying to figure out how this works to remove, and there's a E-clip down here and a spring up here I think we have to take out. But I have to have this door off in order to get to the idlers and stuff that I need to access. See if I can even get in here to get that spring off. I'll give you a better shot of that spring. It's this one right here. So that's the one I'm trying to remove now. My camera gimbal will just cooperate for a change. I know it's contradictory to its nature. Okay, how much of this is going to fight me when I try to pull it out? There's a couple of screws we got to get rid of now. There's one up here and one down there. Okay, how is this being held in now? I gotta separate it from down here, it looks like. I hope you could see what I was pointing at. This area. Okay, why ain't you coming out now? Got a little pin up top here. That's the one that had the eject spring on it. So, door is off. Good. Okay, now I've been looking at this, and the pinch roller's in great shape on this. They usually are on Technics decks. I did replace the one on my RS-M275, but that's because I was trying to chase the lowest water flutter possible. I'm noticing that this arm is cracked, just like the 755's was. But this is moving well enough that I don't think I'll even take the pinch roller apart. It's fine. I don't need to worry about it, I don't think. And the way I feel about things today, with my cold and such, is that I don't really want to do too much extra, or too much more than I need to do on this deck. But I'm starting to get a picture here that the previous owner did the service himself and just didn't know what to do inside the top part of this. But like I said, I will do as much with you on camera as I can, because I never did anything with the idler in the 245X. At least this idler. I don't even think I replaced that idler on the 245 either. So, come on, brain, tell me what to do next. Okay, I guess we'll do the fast wind first. Use a split washer? Why do that when we can make life so much more difficult for our technicians? Let's see, is there an easier way for me to give you a good angle as to what I'm doing on this? Maybe like this. Gotta reach around all these posts and stuff, and I'm worried about breaking that wire off again on the metal detection switch. But whatever. Okay, that washer's off. Now we just pull this off, and you have to relube this in order for the music search functions to work on properly on these Technics decks. And off comes the idler. There is a clutch in here, so you got to keep that in mind. Clean up yonder pivot post, of course. Get all the old grease off. Pipe cleaner dipped in isopropyl alcohol, and we'll just go right through the pivot like that. So, how do I get this out of my way so I can work on getting the idler off? Apologies if I bumped you. I've got limited space on this table right now. I don't really want to try and take this idler completely off because it looks like it's all press fit in there. The pin, or the central, you know, the post here. I don't want to mess with that, so I'm going to try to get the idler off. In any way I can. I'm Gonna try not to break it, because if I break it, then it's gonna be hard to possibly put it back in if I need to. But you gotta stretch it around this this idler gear also. So talk about difficult. This idler is still in half decent shape, but I would like to put a new one on if I can. Question is whether or not I can without breaking that gear, because this gear is not going to be easy to replace unless I get the one out of the 245X, and I do not want to do that. Okay, hopefully I did that without any gear damage. Looks all right to me. So, let me take my idlers here, or my Marco rubber O-rings, as it were, and we'll check to see if this is the same size. It is the same size. Okay, so the take-up idler and the fast wind idler on these decks are the same size. I will just get my calipers to make sure. Here's the old one. About 15.9. And yes, exactly the same. 2.3 millimeters and... oh, maybe not quite. I might have to sand this down. It's a little thick. Yes, it is a little thick. So keep that in mind, y'all. 1.9 millimeters is the height of the fast wind idler on these decks. And the inside is about 11 millimeters. So the Marco rubber O-ring will work, except I have to sand it down so it'll fit. Okay, so the new idler is on. I think it'll work. I hope it will anyway. Now we just got to reinstall this. So I'm going to molly coat the post this rides on. That's too much grease. Whatever. And let's see, is there anything else I need to lube while I'm down here? Yes, probably we should lube this area right here as well. I believe that's what I did for the 245X anyway. See if I can get this washer back on first. And apparently I can. Now on the 245X, I didn't bother to pull the reel tables. Kind of thinking about doing it on this one though. Even though we've got more of these awful washers to deal with. Wish they would have just used split washers, but no, we can't do that. We have to make the tech's life difficult. But I still win. Whoa. I love it when things explode like that, and I bet I got a spring missing. Yes, I've got a spring missing. I gotta go find it now. Great. Okay, spring has been located. It was on top of the transport somewhere. At least it didn't go far, unlike some other times I've lost springs. Somehow I usually always find them again, but It's irritating whenever they take off like that. Just checking to see if there are any washers down in here. I don't think there are. This really does not feel like a good day for me to be doing this, but I want this done by the end of the day. Like I said, there is a bit of a time issue here. All right, where's that pipe cleaner I was using before? We got to clean out the center of the spindle here. So it can be nice and clean. Hopefully that's not too much moly coat. It shouldn't be, I don't think. Probably is. Just making sure all the stuff is off this thing. Brakes out of the way, please. Okay, that's one done. All right, I guess we need that spring first. There we go, we did that one. Now we got to do this one. Not this time, boyo. You can't get away that easy. Oh, we got something under here. This will be a magnet for the sensor over here to tell the deck when the spindle is turning, apparently. So I'm going to clean off yonder magnet because it looks like it's got crud on top of it somehow. Just going around in here because there is some grease down in there. Set that down out of the way so it's not in any kind of trouble. Take my Kim wipe and clean off the spindle. I'll just do a dry brushing of this sensor here just to make sure there's no grease or anything on it. And now we can re-lube that. Okay, that should be good for both of those spindles now, or reel tables, as it were. Like I said, I'm sick, so not feeling good. All right, next step would be the idler over here. I've already serviced the actual idler drive spindle over here, so no need to do that again. You can see that the washer is a little bit deformed from where I was prying on it. But we got to do the take-up idler now, and I need to swivel this around in order to do that better. I don't think it would be too hard to service the idler in place on this deck, but I want to relube everything because I want the wow and flutter to be as low as possible on this. These washers suck. I hate them. Technics, why couldn't you have used a split washer like everybody else that's normal? Why'd you have to be like Sony, making me stab myself with my own tools here? But I got it anyway, so off this comes. Set that down there for now, and I'm gonna clean. I see an area I'm gonna want to lube, so I'll zoom you out so I can show it to you. This part right here, I'm gonna put some new grease on. This is the gray stuff that's usually still good, but I've got easy access to this, so I'm going to just smear some new Molykote EM30L down in there while I'm here. It's easy enough. Just like that. Now just a little bit of fresh moly coat on the idler shaft there. And now we can do this idler. And this is the one that's getting the Fix Your Audio idler. Which is where? Where is which? Where did I put that? Did it fall on the floor or something? I bet it did. Okay, so ye old idler was on the floor. It's under my new chair over there. And yeah, the other reason I don't want to particularly buy that 999X right now is I just bought that big JVC boombox. And there's no way I was going to compromise buying that boombox. I've been waiting way too long for that. But the boombox was $485, so doesn't really leave me a lot of wiggle room to buy yet another overcomplicated tape deck. And the 999X is definitely in that category. It's a quad direct drive unit. Fixing one of those is probably like fixing a dragon in terms of complexity. Or one of the Revox ones that are like that. Or the Z7000 or 6000. Okay, new idler on. I'm just going to clean the idler with some isopropyl alcohol, even though it is new. We want it to be rubbery and grippy and all that kind of good stuff. All right, I think we're just about done here. I'm going to clean the pinch roller while I've got easy access to it right now. I am just going to use isopropyl alcohol only on a Kim wipe because I can access a Kim wipe with this easier, if that makes any sense. Just using my fingernail to spin it around as I wipe with the Kim wipe. Iso alcohol will not hurt this long term. At least that's what I have found. It's a little dirty, but not too bad. And I'm going to have to go over the capstan one more time, it looks like. I don't know why I threw that Kim wipe away, because it's useful yet. Just getting access to the flywheel here so I can spin this around. Okay, there we go. That should be good. I have already cleaned the heads. Pinch roller is clean. Only thing yet to do, I think, is to get in here and polish these switches, which is going to be a real pain because I don't want to remove any linkages in order to do that, but I found that with the 245X, the Deoxit D100L didn't really do very good to clean these up. It worked eventually, I'll say it that way, but for a while there, the 245X was flaking out big time, even after service. So I'm just going to polish these switches instead of Deoxit. You guys can yell at me in the comments if you disagree with that, I guess. This one's really hard to access. This is 3000 grit sandpaper I'm using. Sandpaper. There's one that's really, really hard to access. It's in the same position as the 245X's was. This is the one that's really tough. I gotta take off my glasses for this. It is right up in here. So I'll get my little strip of sandpaper here. Okay, right now the switch is closed, so easy enough to polish. That should do it. And I am going to go ahead and apply the D100L, if I can find it, to all of these switches for lubrication. That's that one. This one's going to be the worst. I know you can't see it. I'll show it to you in a second. Okay, I got it in there. The switch I'm talking about is, let's see if we can find it here. It's right yonder, right there. I'm manipulating it now, and I'm going to put some moly coat on this little post here. I am finding that some of this old grease is just really not very good anymore that Technics used. Okay, it's just the smallest amount I can put on there without getting the moly coat into the switch itself. So, that should be done. I just gotta D100L the rest of the switches up top here, like I did with the 245X. And I think that got them all. I'm going to try to activate some of these switches. Should really be getting the multimeter out and testing the continuity of these switches. But I'll live dangerously again. This is my own deck, so I forgot to do that switch up there. Terrific. And now I've misplaced my... Oh, no, I haven't. I've got my sandpaper here. This is for the record prevention lockout. And you probably can't see what I'm doing. This is the switch I'm working on right now. Okay, hopefully that works. If this were a customer deck, I would probably go ahead and break out the multimeter and such just to make sure everything works, but my deck, so I'm being lazy, and I'm also, like I said, not feeling well. Let me think. Is there anything else I need to do up in here? I do not think so. I think we are actually at the end of this. Thank goodness. Next week, I think I'm going to try and get my Nakamichi BX1 done, because we've worked on this deck, and I'm going to want to start working on the RS-M88 soon. And in order to do that, I need to know if the heads on the BX1 are going to be a viable donor for that project. Okay. Just got to put things back together now, I think. This needs cleaning off. There's oil and grease and stuff on the front of it. I want to get rid of that. I find it cool that there's a little lamp in here. I'll show it to you in a second. Maybe you've already seen it and recognized it for what it was. But the cassette well lamp on this deck is right there. So if you're replacing that, have fun. I'm glad this one doesn't need it. Okay, I think we're about ready to test here. We'll see if any magic smoke comes out. I'm half convinced that there will be some. I'm not exactly happy about the way that ribbon connector on this side went back together on this board, but it should be okay. I metered it and it all seemed like it was good, but this thing is so complicated. It's got wires going everywhere, so I don't know. Let's find out. Power to the deck has been applied. We'll just run it like this for now. And power on. Capstan is working. So let's see if we can get it to play a tape, or if it does anything at all. Okay, I've got my faceplate off to the side here to sort of tell me where things are. Well, this is very encouraging. I didn't think it was going to work, but it seems like it is. Seems like there might be a channel imbalance. Give me a second here. Actually, it is fine. This is working really well, actually. But, is chrome detected? I can't really tell because it's in the display, but this LED is lit up, so I'm betting that's the one. And that's not correct. It's detecting metal. Why is it detecting metal? It's a chrome tape. Something to do with this switch I cleaned, or I've had to repair. I think the contact is out of place. Yeah, because even ejected, that thing's lit up. It should not be. So I'm going to have to look at that. Give me a second here. Okay, folks, the problem does not seem to be related to the micro switches on the transport at all. It seems like it's electronics, so we're going to have to go looking for this yet. So this these micro switches plug into connector K, which is down here. And I see there are a couple of capacitors right there. Capacitors, camasticators, coagulators. Just trying to see if there's any corrosion on those. We'll have to get underneath and check the solder joints on there as well. Oh yeah, those capacitors are leaking. Physically. Of course they are. So let me get the bottom off and we'll take a look at that area. Okay, this is the connector we're looking at right here, and I do not see any bad solder joints whatsoever here. I'll reflow them anyway, but the two capacitors I was looking at are here and here, so I'm going to go ahead and change those, and we'll see if it changes anything. Okay, so the old cablapimators have been changed. They tested good with the tweezers, but they're physically leaking, so who knows? Might still be bad. Let's find out. Okay, metal is showing. That's supposed to be, I believe that's the default. And then as the switches short out, it changes the tape type. Let's see if this is... No, still not recognized. Let's try a normal tape. Nope, we still got a problem. I gotta go reference the service manual on this one. Okay, so I've got the schematic printed out of the relevant section of the circuit here. This is the auto tape selector here. The IC5 is the guy in charge of that, and that's this one right down here. So we're going to do some voltage measurements, I think. So I'm going to load up a chrome tape. So we are grounded, meters online, and we're going to check VCC A and B here, pins 1, 2, and 3. So I got to reach around you for this. We'll check pin 1 first. This is the power going into the chip. 8.63. That's kind of low. It should be, oh, what is it here? It should be 10.7 volts. So that could be part of the issue here. Okay, what's pin 2? Let's see. Pin 2 should be 2 volts for chrome. Nothing there. Do have the right pin, do I not? Just checking pin 1 again. Yeah, it's still undervolted. Let's try pin 3. Nothing there. Okay, we're going to have to check this 10.7 volt line coming in. So let me go figure out where that comes from. Oh wait, I didn't even load a tape. What am I doing here? Let's try that again once I actually have a tape in the deck. Okay, let's do this again. Pin 1, still low. Pin 2. There's more there now, but 66 millivolts is improper. Pin 3, yeah, not much going on there. Okay, let me look into the power source for this and I'll report back. Okay, folks, I'm making a little bit of progress here. I tested where the voltage comes out of the power board. It's still running at 8.6 volts, a whole 2 volts lower than it should be. And I've gotten it traced. Got another printout here for you. It comes off Q401 here, so we're going to have to check Q401, which looks like a Darlington, if I'm not mistaken. So we should have, we've got several different voltages to test there. So let me see if I can get this to a point where I can actually check those. This is going to be tricky. Very. Oh, I see a screw I didn't tighten. Is that part of the problem? I had this board out for recapping, so I kind of don't think it's part of the problem, but it could be. So we're going to check our voltages on Q401. Both with and without that connector connected. So how do I get a ground off this thing now? Well, I could get one way over here on the side maybe. It's important to check all your grounds on a situation like this. Okay, that one's loose. You can't see me, but I'm way over here on this side of the deck. These are where I'm going to have to get a ground, I think, to do any testing under here. It would be ideal if I could get one out of the power board itself, but I don't think I can. Let me see if I can find a good spot to hook up the meter. If I can get it from underneath here on the transport, maybe that's the only way I can do it. And I will tell you right now that this particular transistor is directly after the one I found that was leaky, the capacitor I found that was leaky and not very good anymore. So it could be I'm going to be shopping for transistors in a minute here. Okay, Q41 is just right there. I'm going to put my schematic here where I can easily see it. Set the meter up where I can see that, hopefully, and you can too. Okay, let's fire it up. Chrome tape is in. Everything's online. Okay, what do we got here? Emitter should be 10.7 volts. That's the wrong one. This is the right one. Okay, there's our 8.6. It's not supposed to be that low. Okay. Base is 18.6 volts. 9 volts, that is wrong. What about collector? Oh no, that's where you're supposed to get the 18.6. Okay, I'm reading the thing wrong. Okay, 9.3 volts on the other pin, which is supposed to be 12 volts. So I'm going to shut the deck off real quick. I'm going to get back under and I'm going to disconnect that that connector for the switch here. We're going to deplug it, like so. We're going to lose our ground connection in the process. Have to replug it again. Or reconnect it again. Which I have. Okay, can you see the meter? Power back on. Okay, metal tape is off the indicator now, so let's remeasure and we'll see what we get here. Okay. Still measuring the wrong one. 15.7 there. 2 volts at the emitter. Okay, this is wacky weird. Should be getting full voltages there, I would think, but maybe that connector needs to be connected. Maybe I need to depin pin 3 and just leave the rest of it connected. I bet that's it. Okay, I guess I'll do that then. Okay, pin 3 has been lifted and isolated, so we're going to see if that is the problem. Power is on, and we'll just remeasure yet again. Hope you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, we got the full 10.9 volts there now. .23 volts there, and 12.22 there. So the transistor is working. The problem is downstream from said transistor. So we're about to get really experimental here. I'm going to get the bench power supply out, and we're just going to see what happens when I inject the 10.5 volts in here that it's supposed to have. Yes, I used painter's tape to isolate. Sue me. Okay, we need to put this where it won't short anything. So I'm going to stick it right yonder. Okay, and we need what? What do we need? 10.5. Let's go up to 10.5. What is our current limit going to be? We'll do 1.5 amps. Power deck on, and let's see what happens. Nothing happens. Do we have a wire issue, I wonder? Injecting the power should make that thing work again. So what's going on here? Well, folks, I found the problem. The news is not ideal, but it is what it is. First off, I've changed a bunch of the capacitors in the deck now. There's a lot of physically leaking ones. Like that one's leaking. That one's leaking. They're all over the place. Just a nightmare here, but I now have that rail up to the correct voltage. Let's show you here. You can see it right there. 10.3. Shouldn't be drifting down like that. Why is it doing that? Still drifting. Why? Thought I found the problem, but maybe I didn't. Anyway, pin 1 of the IC has been disconnected now. So maybe that was the problem. Maybe the regulator is weak on the power supply, because it shouldn't be drifting down now. See, it's 9.6 and dropping. It started right up there at the right voltage. So let's shut it off for a second. Yes, I've got the noise reduction boards out. I had to eliminate them as the possible cause. Anyhow, let's see if we can set this up. Gonna put the meter probe on the pin here. I'm gonna fire it back up. Yeah, it's drifting down again. It shouldn't be doing that. So I guess I'm going to pull Q401 and test it. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe I've been chasing my tail on this one. Okay, folks, I'm making progress. I pulled the transistor out, tested good, of course, put it back in, well, repasted it first, then put it back in, and now I've got the proper voltage at the pin I need over here with this IC connected, but it's still not switching tape equalization properly, and I'm getting 2 volts at pin 2 and pin 3, which is improper. So I'm going to have to keep going on this, and I will report back when I find something. Most likely it'll be Saturday now, because I've burned a lot of time on this issue. And now that I think about it, it's always had this issue. It was doing it when I diagnosed this deck, if I remember right. So I will keep trying to figure this out, and I'll report back. There's a couple of resistors I got to check now. Okay, folks, I finally found the problem. This was a bear to track down, but you see where this jumper wire is? It's on the ground that goes back to the power supply. And the other end is hooked up to another jumper wire. And watch this. Let me see if I can set you up here so you can see both the tape type lights and the jumper wire. Watch when I do this. Folks, we have a bad ground, so let me track this down and fix it, and we'll get back to you. Okay, folks, it's fixed. Well, this problem's fixed. There may be other problems, but you see it's on normal now. I'm going to put a chrome tape in. Chrome is recognized. Now metal tape. There we go, we got her done. I did not find the cause of the ground problem. So what I did was, I just added one. This is kind of janky right now because I don't have any ring terminals, but I've got a jumper from there to, I'll show you, right there. So I'm going to have to go get some ring terminals to fix that up right, and should be good to go now. But for now, I'm going to put the bottom on this thing and put the cover on this thing, and I'm going to go play test it for a while, because the transport's working really well, and I think it's going to be good now. But yeah, I don't have time anymore today to do the speed calibration, so we'll do that on camera on Saturday. Or at least I'll film that on Saturday. Okay, folks, who's ready to find out what this thing does for wow and flutter and stuff? And get the speed calibrated? I think I'm ready. Pretty sure you guys are ready, so let's get this done. Do I not have the power on again? Apparently not. But power is on now. Okay, it's saying metal tape type over there. Okay, it's back to normal, so it is switching properly still. And before we get started on this, I just got to tell you, I decided, going to try to make a play on that big TAC R999X. I'm not sure if I'll get it, but like I said earlier, if I do get it, you guys will know sooner or later. But that's for another time. We got to get Windows out of my face here with these prompts. Okay, Windows, what are you screwing around with me for? Anyway, tape is in. Let's get this done. Okay, 0.036% wow and flutter. I like that. Speed is low. Let's bring that up, shall we? We'll watch it for a minute. 0.035 is very nice. I like that number. And this tape was made with a DD99, which is my lowest wow and flutter deck in the collection. Come on, give me just another hertz or so. All right, we're going to leave it right there, I think. Look at the speed stability on this. Oh, this is a good deck. Check that out, 3000.2 to 3000.5. This is on par with the double D99 almost. 0.02627% now. Good grief, this is good. Okay, I guess that oil does do well with cap stands, because look at this. I am loving this. Speed is drifting up as high as 3000.9, 0.8 or something like that, but very, very stable. Very, very happy I am with this. Okay, I'm going to shut this off now. And I'll go off camera and I'll set the azimuth off camera. And the recording test will be a separate video, I think, but it's not going to be tomorrow like it was with the CT970. Reason being, I just don't have time to make that video right now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go through this deck now in between. And I'm going to go ahead and recap the signal chain. You can tell I've already done a couple of them here. This was part of me trying to figure out the problem of the auto tape select not working. I just basically started recapping everything back here and hoped that would do it, but spoilers, it wasn't capacitors at all, it was the ground. Okay, folks, so it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't have to go back several days later and have to edit a whole new segment into the video and re-upload it all over again, but that's what we're dealing with today. I decided to go online and look at various pictures of this deck apart just to make sure that whatever the previous owner didn't have something to do with the grounds, and sure enough, I found the real problem. Folks, this jumper wire is not necessary. Basically what I had to do was I had to get the ground wire from the power supply back into the right position. You'll remember that it was originally attached to the screw down here on this side of the board. That's improper. Where that wire actually goes is right here. So I have reattached it in the proper position, and now watch this. Power on, eject, look at that. It's switching tape types properly without my fancy new jumper wire. So that's the whole deal with this. Basically, user error from the guy who last had this. I don't know what to tell you. And with regards to the TAC R999X, I didn't get it. There were basically two of them on sale at pretty much the same time. I was watching both of them, and they both went for over $500. My max bid was $500 because, well, I thought the time for buying a unicorn is when you see the unicorn, not, oh, just go ahead and get the next one or something like that. So I tried. I wasn't going to go a penny over 500, so I let it go. Somebody else got it, but I'm currently bidding on my first Kenwood, so be interesting to see where that goes. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up by removing my jumper wire here, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.